In this video, we'll look at working with sprite animations in Godot. So I've got my animations here, and I've brought them into Godot, and I've got my 1-frame lizard dead, and I've got my 2 frames of lizard run here. So I've put them in folders called lizard dead and lizard run for organizational purposes. It's a little easier, especially if you have more than just 2 sprites, to have all of your sprites for an animation in a folder. When you've got, 10 or 20 sprites that go to each one, it can get a little hectic in here. Speaking of organization, it's totally fine if you want to create folders in here. You can right-click and create folders to do some organization. The 2 main ways people organize things are either put all of the things that are related, say all of my enemy stuff, into a folder, or I can organize things by type. So I could put all my PNGs into a folder, I could put all my scripts into a folder, but whatever organization strategy works for you, I do recommend having some organization here. So now that I've got my sprites brought into Godot, let's look at how I would animate my lizard character. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my player here. And so we can look at him. And we can go ahead and just modify the one that we've got here. So we had been using a sprite, so I'm going to turn that off. You could go ahead and just delete it. I'm just going to leave it there and turn it off using the little eye, because I can show you a new thing. And we're going to want to add a new child node to our player that is an animated sprite. So I'm going to go and add child node, and I'm going to look for animated sprite. Now remember, you want the 2D one, not the 3D one. So I'm going to choose animated sprite there, hit create, and you can see we've got our little warning. Sprite frames must be created, so we'll go ahead and do that next. So over here in frames, you can see that it is empty. So we'll go ahead and create some new sprite frames, and you can click, and that will open up your frame window down here at the bottom. You can click again, and it closes it. So open, close it. So you can go ahead and open it down here so we can add some things. Over here, these are your animation names. So I'm going to rename them. I'm going to call mine run, and I'm going to add a separate one that I'm going to call dead. You can name them whatever you'd like. Just remember what you named them, because you're going to need that later. So we'll start with run. I'm going to grab my 2 sprites. You can grab however many you need, shift click, and bring them over here. I'm going to select run up here and zoom that out a little bit so we can have a look at that, and we can turn on playing and to see what that looks like. So if you'd like, you can adjust the speed here. You can turn it to loop or not. In this case, I do want it to loop, and as we can see, this is a little bit bigger than my old one, which I actually like. So I'm going to go ahead and just readjust my collision shape here to match my new lizard. I'm going to leave his feet a little bit out of it. Go back to my animated sprite, and let's bring in the dead. So I'm going to do the same thing. Oop, wrong ones. Bring in my dead animation. We can swap over here to dead to see what that looks like. In this case, this one doesn't necessarily need to loop. It doesn't matter because it's just 1 frame, so it'll just keep playing it. But just so I can show you a new thing, you can turn that off if you'd like. So I'm going to go back to run, because that's what I would like to play in the beginning, and that is basically all set up now. If we go back, if we save that and go back to our main scene, we can see there's our little lizard, and if we play this, we can see that he's now animated. So what we'd like to do now is make him actually become his dead animation when he hits the bird. So let's look at how to change animations with scripts next. So I'm going to go back to my script, and I've already got my signal here. If you don't, you can add that in. You can look back at the video about signals if you need help doing that again, and connect that back up. So right now I've got it printing out a statement saying what I hit. So you can see down here I got player hit enemy. This is a very useful little line of code, especially in your collision events, as it will tell you, what you've hit. And if you're not on the player, if you're on a collectible, you can say something like collectible hit. Very, very useful little debugging statement. So in here, let's also go ahead and set our animation to the dead animation. So you can use $ animated sprite. It's going to autofill that for me. It should turn kind of this light green color. If you've spelled it correctly, make sure you capitalize and everything. If it's not working, double check your spelling. It's really easy to swap 2 characters around in here. So animated sprite, I'm going to open up, I'm going to go back to my player here so you can see it. Animated sprite here refers to this name right here, which is animated sprite. So whatever it is called here, that's what you want to have here. This $ is basically a way of saying get my child called whatever. So $AnimatedSprite means get my child called AnimatedSprite. So player, the script is on the player. We're looking at its child called AnimatedSprite. We'll look at this more in some later modules. You can do a lot of really powerful things with this. So anyway, AnimatedSprite.play, and then the name of the animation. So I called it dead. So you've got a spell against spell capitalized, just like you have down there. And that's really all there is to it. So let's go ahead and save and run and see what happens. So there's my lizard. When I hit my bird, you can see he switches to dead. Now, a problem here is that he is still able to move after he is dead and, in fact, still collect collectibles, which is not necessarily ideal. That's not necessarily the behavior we want. It'd be really nice if our lizard turned in the direction he's moving. So like when he's moving left or right, he turned to face that direction, and when he was moving down, he turned to face in the down direction. So let's look at how to do that before we move on to fixing the dead. So let's go back to our script here. And what we want to do is, when he's moving down, we want to rotate him to face down. When he's moving right, we'll rotate him to face right. So we can use rotation degrees here. So whatever you have as kind of default is 0. So in this case, up is going to be 0, which means left is going to be 270. Hopefully you remember your degrees. I'm going to go ahead and type all these in, but it wouldn't hurt you at all to do them one at a time and test them to make sure you get them right. So right should be 90. Up, oh, not rotation, we want rotation degrees. Rotation degrees up is 0. If you're not sure why you need to use up, leave it off and see what happens. And down is going to be 180. If you're not sure where these degrees values I'm using are coming from, think back to your circles. So let's run that and see if that works. So, oh, when we hit our collectible, we die, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and we're going to avoid that for now. So when we turn that way, when we turn left, right, up, down works. Good, good, good. So now that we've got that working, let's go ahead, if you got this wrong, go ahead and adjust them until you get them proper. Let's go ahead and fix this problem in the next video where we become dead and yet can still run around. And we'll maybe also fix this problem about being dead when you hit the collectibles too.